Nicola Matteis the Younger was born in London around about the year 1677. We don't have a huge amount of information about his early years. We suppose that his mother was a local London girl. His father, on the other hand, was a famous violinist, indeed the first real sort of virtuoso violinist to ply his trade in England. According to Roger North, who wrote about the father in his publication The Musical Grammarian of 1728, Matteis the Elder came from the Naples area of Italy and walked all the way from Italy to England on foot with his violin under a full coat at his back. He must have had sore feet after that trip. Apart from a brief trip to France in 1678, he settled in England, where he enjoyed a successful career as a violinist during the last 3 decades of the 17th century. In terms of when he died, he probably died after 1713 in a little hamlet called Colkirk in Norfolk. The political situation in England at the time was fairly dicey. Years of civil war followed by Cromwell's Republic, and then the restoration of the king in 1660 had really highlighted the massive sectarian issues that existed between the Roman Catholics and the Anglicans, and it's fair to say that the Roman Catholics had not exactly done that well. Obviously, Nicola Matteis, coming from the Naples area, was a Roman Catholic, but decided that his family was going to convert to Anglicanism. Whether this was brought about by spiritual inspiration or, more likely, a keen sense of political awareness, it was nevertheless an astute move. If the Matteis family, however, had really embraced Anglicanism, young Nicola's choice of wife was pretty odd. Her name was Susanna Timperley, although she had been born as Susanna Sparrow, and she came from a devout Catholic background. Her first husband, Henry Timperley, was Lord of Hintlesham Hall in Suffolk. In fact, you can still see Hintlesham Hall. Indeed, you can actually go and stay there because it's now a hotel, quite a grand hotel. And Henry Timperley was a keen supporter of the pro-Catholic James II, as was her father, Sir John Sparrow. John Sparrow had been with the deposed king's Jacobite troops at the famous Battle of the Boyne in 1690, and following this defeat in Ireland, Sir John fled to the exiled Jacobite court in France at a place called Saint-Germain-en-Laye, where he was soon joined by his newly widowed daughter. However, Sir John stayed in France and Susanna returned to Hintlesham Hall with her son in 1694. Given her pedigree and social standing, her marriage to a lowly violinist, sort of 13 years her junior, must have raised a few eyebrows, particularly as the couple were probably cohabiting well in advance of their marriage in 1700. Matteis travelled to Vienna in 1700, interestingly with Susanna but without the children, and took a post at the court of the Holy Roman Emperor Leopold I on the 1st of July. But the following year he was awarded 200 ducats by the emperor in order to go back to London and bring the kids across. One of the arguments used in the petition that still survives in Vienna describes England as being an un-Catholic country, and therefore they really needed to go and get their children from the grasp of the heathens. Given these children must have been conceived prior to the marriage in 1700, Susanna's child by her first husband remained in England. This may shed some light on the assertion made by Roger North, where he describes Matteis the Elder as living with a woman as one that was married. Given the son's relationship with Susanna and North's later comment regarding the father's wife, it seems that North muddled up the tale of the two Nicolas when compiling his book 30 years later. It might seem an odd place for an English musician to go and work in 1700, but the Kapellmeister, who was incumbent at the imperial court at that time, Antonio Pancotti, appears to be most eager to secure Matteis' services. His initial salary was set at a considerably higher rate than that of the other court violinists. He subsequently became leader of the court orchestra, and then in 1712 was granted the title of Direttore della Musica Strumentale, a post that required Matteis to compose ballet music for the balls and for the many court operas, in addition to his orchestral duties. He eventually died in Vienna in 1737, not in Shrewsbury around 1749, as Charles Burney claims in his General History of Music. Quite why Burney asserts this date for his death, I expect we shall never know.